Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MTG Study Hall Social Distance Edition. I am Brett, and I am joined, as always, by JC and Lily today. We have a lot happened in these past 2 weeks, just a couple things, so plenty to get into. Before we do, I have got a little bit of bookkeeping to take care of. So check us out by liking us at any of the following social medias: Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Twitch TV, by going to the requisite site /TCG University. We are also available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. It was recently brought to my attention that we were not. Our new 52-style reboot that started at the beginning of 2021, those episodes were not on the podcast apps. To the best of my knowledge, they have since been added and will be added going forward. Just kind of a slight kerfuffle and just just transitioned with different producers, basically. So that should be fixed. And if it's not, I guess tell us if you can. Otherwise, we can just keep an eye on that. So we have some Patreon junior and higher sponsors to thank. We've got Addie, Andrew Dang, Anthony Albano, Bryce Rathsack, Clay Cardwell, Jacob Arson Masur, Jay Rogers, Jesse Cervini, Jesse Morrison, Jesse Nix, Justin Farst, Kat Maria, Kevin Broberg, Kieran Vision, Kyle Krasowski, Kyle K. I'm so sorry, man, every week. Lucinda Letica, Orlando Valdez Santos, Paul Casagrande, Ransom MacArthur, Samantha Stevens, the baddest bitch around, Sean O'Brien, Timothy Freelieb, Tammers Evolution TCG, and Tyler Zane Pease. Thank you to all of them. We really appreciate your patronage. Before we launch into the first topic, we're just going to do a quick wrap-up of what we've been doing in Magic the past couple weeks. JC, what have you been doing in Magic?
Oh, as I mentioned in the previous show, I was playing a little bit of Standard. I built a Kooky Cat tribal deck that was a lot of fun and just combos into making like lots of cats on turns that, that I'm enjoying. I did a little drafting too. I did poorly in all the drafting I have done because I'm like, I will make something tribal in some way or something, and then that's a poor idea. So I bought some art. I'm not sure if I mentioned that last time. I bought some of the secret layers because I didn't want to miss out on that cool 90s art, and I also bought a Charmed Stray print, and I looking into buying some signed cards and stuff like that because I dig that kind of stuff. So that's been me.
Alrighty, and then Lily, what have you been doing?
Engaging in the discourse. I guess that counts, right?
That definitely counts. Being on the social media, talking, reading, consuming, yeah. I mean, we've got to at least spin that narrative. We're a Magic the Gathering podcast. Yes, what you're doing is valid and good.
You did play a little Standard, Lily. I remember you yelling about it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I'm not doing terribly well in Standard. Currently or in general?
Yes. Fair
enough. Anything else, or mostly just staying plugged in?
No, I mean the discourse is a lot. So
I mean, yes, it is. As for myself, not a ton. Still kind of taking it easy. I did change my Marchesa commander deck, my Mardu Marchesa commander deck, long may she reign, into Gen, that new enchantment Mardu guy. And oh boy, that was fun. We played a couple games, and Kat had a new deck too, and we managed to come back from the Liliana Dreadhorde General alt.
Oh. I miss playing Commander.
I mean, obviously I am the lucky kind of person who literally lives with 3 other Commander players, but I too miss our Commander games. So, hey, maybe in the next few months, that will be an option once we're all vaccinated up. So, that was, then, other than that, ordered some secret layers. Excited for those to come in. Got some of the secret layers I ordered months and months ago. Man, those metal poster ones are so cool. I absolutely adore those. I haven't put them in.
Did those ship already?
Mine did, but I bought them pretty early. Also, I lucked out and I'm getting they messed up the Bob Ross lands, and if you ordered the normal, they sent a lot of times, it looks like they sent you foil and vice versa. So I got the foil one, and they're going to send me the other one, which is really nice. So
Bob Ross lands and Pringles.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. So, yeah, that's been me. And one other thing before we launch into the show, I forgot to do this because I didn't scroll far enough down in the script. A very quick shout out to our sponsors, Nuclear Ink Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop, Red Riot Games, Cards Custom Build, Inked Gaming, Dex Protection. There will be more information about all that at the ad break. So sorry about that, a little bit out of order there. But let's get into it. So we are going to open up and talk about Time Spiral Remastered. Lily, do you want to give the audience at home some deets about this upcoming set?
So Time Spiral Remastered is a paper only, well, not paper only, but it is not releasing an arena. It is a draft set. It is a supplemental product. It's not part of the standard rotation. It is in the same way that Kaladesh Remastered was like a reimagining of Kaladesh. This is sort of a version 2.0 of Time Spiral Block. And
what are the sets in Time Spiral Block, just so the people know?
Oh, the sets in Time Spiral Block are Time Spiral, which focused on Magic's past, Planar Chaos, which focused on an alternate hypothetical Magic's present, and Future Sight, which focused on the many different ways Magic's future could go. It was a very self-indulgent set. It was very Magic for people who care about Magic, but back in 2008, I think.
And because of that, it's pretty well spoken of. If I'm not
2008,
wrong.
2007. I'm sorry.
Well, it's a weird spot. My understanding was while it was released, F&M turnout went down quite a bit.
Yep.
So it was not. So what the situation was, it was wildly complicated. In the first set, Time Spiral, they brought back a lot of old mechanics. Planar Chaos, they played around with some new stuff, and Future Sight, the only mechanic, other than the evergreen mechanics, they had potential mechanics, but they didn't have any overlap, right? So like it was on one card, it wasn't on any other cards. Is that
right?
Correct?
So each of the three sets in the block had a gimmick. Time Spiral, which focused on Magic's past, had a series of cards that were, and we'll get back to this because the Time Spiral Remastered is doing a related thing. Had a series of cards that they reprinted in the old border, in the pre-8th edition border, that were cards that are updated templating, updated everything else, and then so Planar Chaos had plane shifted cards, which were alternate color versions of other Magic cards. So
like a red giant growth,
right? So sometimes it pushed it out of the color pie. Other times, like with Psionic Blast, it pushed it into Psionic Blast and Char. Char was Ravnica. Apologies. But same idea, where you take a card that used to be one color, like Prodigal Sorcerer, and reprinted it in the proper color, and it had a different design for the frame. It had an alternate color frame where it's still like the red card is still red, but it's like a different shading and that kind of stuff.
And the Time Spiral, the special reprint cards were in the original border they were printed.
They were in the old border. And then Future Sight had a series of cards that were future shifted cards, which were pre-reprints, where they were basically, the idea was they are reprints of cards that have not come out yet. And that's where Tarmogoyf, which used to be a lot more played in all of the formats, was from. A couple other cards were originally like this. Stuff we've seen, like every few years, they'll try to fit one of these in. And they had a different border as well, with like a left-aligned mana cost and like a little symbol in the corner that denoted card type. And they had a very different visual design.
Yeah, and the idea behind that design was kind of a rethinking, like if we could go back in time and redesign the Magic border, what would we do? And so they realized that a lot of people will hold their cards so you can see the top left of the card, which covers up mana cost. So they're like, we'll put the mana cost on the left. And like Lily said, we'll put this thing that designates it's a creature. And so I actually really like the frames, but they clash with normal Magic frames because like the information's on opposite sides of the corners. So it's one of those weird kind of experiments they did. And I want to come back really quick to something JC brought up. So the sets were wildly complicated. So at the time, it was not a good set. It was not a good block to get new players in because it was full of references and inside jokes and confusing things. And like I said, so in Future Sight in particular, none of the mechanics were repeated across cards. Like normally, like if you look at Call Time, there were sagas, there is Boast, there is the thing where you put it down for 2. Spell Morph. I'm totally blanking on the name.
Foresee.
Foresee.
No, Foretell.
So there's like normally there's like 5 mechanics in a set, and some of them are returning, and a couple might be new. There were like over like 70 in Future Sight, and there was I remember Mark Rosewater's like drive to work on this block. They made more mechanics new in this set than had existed in the game before the set came out.
They did a lot of good things.
Flanking or something like that?
Okay. So, if we're going to just brief overview of the mechanics of the block. Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, Future Sight had some common threads. There were morph cards in all 3. Suspend was present in all 3. Planar Chaos had Vanishing, which was a rework of Fading. And those are the big ones. Like, it had set mechanics. Like we have set mechanics nowadays. But in addition to set mechanics, we just had one-ofs of mechanics and combinations of mechanics from throughout Magic's history. It was a clusterfuck.
So people who are really into technical limited loved this set and this block. And people who were new, I went to some of these pre-releases and I had fun, but I did very bad. It was very complicated and it was not new player friendly. I'd been playing for a couple years at this point, and like there were certainly like they made a plane shifted to Chroma, so like I was certainly happy about my big stompy angel, but oh boy, it was a very, very complicated set. And so
from the Wikipedia, they had keywords of buyback, echo, flanking, flashback, madness, morph, shadow, and storm. They introduced split second and suspend, and they keyworded flash.
Oh, there were a few storm cards. There were enough storm cards that it was one of the primary set mechanics, which is not a statement we're ever going to be able to say again about a standard legal set.
It's one of the reasons that the Storm Scale is called the Storm Scale, because they printed Storm again and it dominated constructed
format.
What are you
talking about? Grape Shot is fine. Dragon Storm's fine. I mean,
fine in like the fine sense, but not in the okay for standard sense. But so this is an interesting thing. So this was also one of the things that created. We're touching on a lot of stuff here. In the past, we've talked about New World Order. This was a big impetus for New World Order, which, in very brief, is rules for common and uncommon cards to keep set complexity just common. Rules for common cards to keep set complexity lower, so it's easier for new people to get into the game. But as the years went on, people really kind of, like, older fans and people who never got to experience it kind of clamored for, like, hey, that was really cool. And one of the big popular things was, like Lily said, they'd take 2 mechanics and they'd stick them together. So a card example is Sprout Swarm, and it's a 4-mana sorcerer instant.
2-mana instant with buyback 3.
That's right. And it makes a 1/1 Sapperling, but it has Convoke. So you can make the Sapperling and then use the Convoke to tap the Sapperlings you might have been making with this card to buy the card back. So people really like the mix and match of mechanics. And so Modern Horizons, which was last year, was a very popular set. And 1 or 2 years ago. In the past several years, we had Modern Horizons.
In the before times.
And Modern Horizons was pitched as Time Spiral 2. And so they wanted a crunchy, complicated set that would do mix and match stuff. Then they were like, hey, what if we printed stuff directly into Modern? And that's kind of where Modern Horizons came from. But Modern Horizons was very successful, and it showed them that, hey, yeah, players want this. So they'd done online remaster sets, and so they decided, hey, we're going to do this remaster set. And the gimmick on this is all the cards in the set are cards that were printed in the original block. Except, like each of the sets before it, there's a special sheet. So in Time Spiral, there was the past cards on the sheet. In Planar Chaos, there was the alternate reality sheet. And in Future Sight, there was the Future
Sight, indeed.
I got the sentence. In Future Sight, there was the Future Shifted sheet. Jesus. So the specialty sheet in Time Spiral Remastered is taking cards that have come out since Time Spiral block and putting them in the old pre-8th edition frame. And so the thumbnail on the podcast you're watching right now is a few of these cards, which with a couple unrelated additions we'll get into in the later half of the show. But so they're taking cards like Thoughtseize, True Name Nemesis. I mean,
Vanishing Light.
I mean, there's 100. We can't list them all here because there's 121 cards because it's a full sheet, and in every pack there will be one of these cards. And when they made these cards, their goal was to print popular playable cards from Modern, Commander, Legacy, Pauper. So there are some real neat goodies. My personal favorite that I'm most excited about is Yawgmoth Thran Physician from Modern Horizons. Is in his old border, and seeing as he's an old character who was popping around during the old border time, it's really cool to see Yawgmoth in the old border. And so I'm excited about the set and all of that, but the main thing that I wanted to talk about, which, oh boy, we're like halfway through this topic already, is, oh boy, old borders are interesting and contentious. Because, like, I'm really excited, and it seems like the general, like, Reddit crew mostly seems excited about this. People who have been playing since the old borders, and I don't want to just say exclusively that. I'm sure there's some newer fans who are into the old borders, but a lot of old school players are getting really excited to see popular favorite cards in the old border. And the foils have that little DCI star at the bottom that foils used to have. It's like, I'm really excited for this. Kat is, like, not interested at all. She likes how the new cards look. She's not really interested in the old border. She's not particularly interested because the main money of this set is the future, is the alternate sheet here. Because they can own, so there's some good cards from Time Spiral block. Damnation, Urborg, Term to Yawgmoth, Tarmogoyf. Like, there are some beefy reprints that they're putting in the set, but they're limited in the main set, and that's what's in it. So there's plenty of mythics and rares that are pretty much there for limited, and because you can only build it out of that set. So the money is going to be like, hey, it's Yawgmoth, hey, it's the Wastes with the old land border, hey, it's the artifact lands, and I think they have the Zendikar fetches, which never had an old
correct. Border. Yep. Fun fact, we still have never got the actual printing that the Future Sight Tarmogoyf was a pre-printing of.
Unless that printing was Modern Masters.
Modern Masters is a reprint set.
But it's like a bootstrap paradox.
I understand it's a bootstrap paradox.
If Tarmogoyf went back in time and killed his grandfather and had sex with its grandmother. Sorry, I mostly just wanted to say.
I understand it's a bootstrap paradox. It's just funny that we've never gotten the actual, because, like, I don't think the card would break standard if it was reprinted.
It would not be a problem.
No.
It would not.
It's like this boogeyman. Like, I came out of the, not to brag a little bit, came out of the Future Sight pre-release with 4 Tarmogoyfs, hung on to them till they were about $50, $60 a piece and moved off of them. They had gone up past that since then and then back down again. And
now selling them for $50 doesn't seem bad. When they were $250 a pop, it's kind of like, but...
it's whatever.
I mean, it's like the stock market. You can't be like, I'm only made 100% profit instead of 1,000. Like, yeah, it's a bummer, but you don't know what the future's going to hold.
And I played with them too. Like, I played a Dredge deck in Standard that had Tarmogoyfs in it. Like, to date myself here.
Remember when they thought that Dredge and Storm were good ideas to have in the same Standard?
Oh, yeah. Yep. And they weren't even the dominant deck. Well, Storm was strong, but they weren't the dominant decks.
Well, Dredge is mostly nasty with things that weren't intended to be played with Dredge.
Yep.
But anyway, I don't need to rant about Dredge. So something that has really kind of surprised me, and I just want to throw that out there. I generally like the new border changes. I've liked the several new border changes. I started right after a year or so after they shifted borders. When they tweaked like legendary creatures getting the cool little crown. I like that. I like when they started playing with borders in recent sets. So overall, I generally like border experimentation and updating the borders. I think the cards look better and the most appealing. But I did not appreciate how much of the old spellbook, old school feel came with the old borders until I saw new art cards in old borders and went, that card looks 25 years old. That border does a lot of work.
Like
yeah.
floored.
a
by
clear
that.
example to me is like Path to Exile in the old white border looks like nuts.
I mean, it looks like a
Okay,
card that
real
came out.
quick. How fucking no, don't put white text on a white card.
No, it's
No.
not. I mean, that was again.
That's a thing too from the old, the white text on the white cards.
It's
I know technically it's white text with a black outline, and it might look different in paper, but
I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording. There's a reason they updated the frames. There's a Lily was taught. We were trying to figure because I was all excited because they're doing at least the white artifact land in the old border, and I was like, oh, they did it in the artifact frame, and Lily's like, no, they didn't. They did it in the land frame. Those frames looked identical basically, and I was like, are you sure? And then Lily had to like post a bunch of pictures, and I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. So like, there's a reason they changed like new artifact. It would look weird to have like new fancy vehicles or Sword of Feast. Like it's weird to see like the Sword of Fire Ice. I think there's a judge promo in the old border. Like it's
yeah, there are
cool.
3 judge promo swords. There's Fire and Ice, Light and Shadow, and Feast and Famine.
Like
I could totally see those in the old border. To be honest with you,
they are. At least some of them are, and like the nostalgia.
Crucible Worlds as well as a judge promo. Old border.
There's certainly some nostalgia to it, but
they're garbage.
You don't like the artifact?
I hate the old borders.
Okay. Oh, so are you excited about like Yawgmoth and an old border? Like, does that
I think it looks good in the case that I think the black cards look good. I think the green cards look good. I think the red cards look good.
What about the blue cards?
No, the white is not readable against the blue either. So here's the deal. It's even a little hard to read it against the black, but on the green and the red, it looks fine.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but like I liked the Amonkhet invocations that they purposely made hard to read. Like they made the right choice when they changed the border, but I love that they're printing these, and like I'm excited to have cards that are going to make me feel nostalgia, even if it's hard to read.
Okay, but the thing with the Amonkhet invocations is they don't look like something I ought to be able to read.
That's completely fair, and I am not saying we need to go back to the old board. No, the cards are so much better now. They're so much more readable, and I will completely acknowledge it is probably just old nostalgia sitting in my room from my parents' house.
Borrowed nostalgia.
Oh no, okay. I owned cards from 7th edition first. A lot of my collection was older cards, and older cards were cheap. So my early decks were a mix of new and old borders. Old borders always feel old. It doesn't feel like coming back home to new Magic cards. I didn't open a lot of packs with old borders, but they were the old cards. And so I've played with them, my collection has them, and I have nostalgia for that time where half my cards were in that border.
Do you think an old border Life from the Loam?
That was from Ravnica.
Yeah.
So it's not in this set. I don't think there is.
Oh fuck! Because it's pre-time spiral. I'm so old.
Yeah.
So,
the other. Oh, go ahead.
I play a bit of Chandelure, and Chandelure is obviously using like all old Magic cards, like and the art and stuff, and like I own a number of old border Magic cards, and there's part of me that likes the ability to like if I wanted to build a commander deck using just old borders, this gives me more cards that I could make a cohesive commander deck with. In general, I don't think giving players more choices in different arts and different borders for cards and reprints is a bad idea. So like I'm kind of on board with this. Also, like nostalgia is a thing, so I'm totally cool with that.
Time Spiral is 15 years old, and Time Spiral in my head is still new Magic cards.
Yeah.
So like. I mean I'm with JC. I'm with you, and just like options aren't a bad thing, and like aesthetically, you are correct. They are Lily. They are harder to read.
So I don't want you to mischaracterize me here.
Okay.
I don't think players having the option to play them and have them is a bad thing. That's fine. They're for somebody. I don't like them personally. I think they are a visual design nightmare outside of a couple of pieces, but they're like that they exist is fine.
I really like old red cards. I like the way they look.
I like old black cards. That's why I'm real. Like Yawgmoth's like my favorite commander deck. So like the fact that that card's gonna be $1 million, but like the fact there's gonna be some swaggy foil Yawgmoth.
You're gonna buy one, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
You know what I don't miss is the multicolor cards.
Oh, the old gold
Yeah.
green.
I do like the wastes. I might get some of the wastes.
The wastes look good. I mean, I think this is a fun option. I hope they'll continue to do like. There's no reason not to pander to your nostalgic audience.
I think that Lotus Bloom looks beautiful with the foil on the old. Yeah.
Oh, the best, and Lotus Bloom's the buy a box promo. So like, this is like I think this is
which is appropriate because it was the pre-release card for the original Time Spiral.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yep. It was Lotus Bloom. It was it Extirpate? Was the one for Plane of Chaos, and then no, Extirpate was Future Sight, and then can't remember what Plane.
I literally played in that pre-release. I don't remember. I probably have it up. Korlash Heir to Blackblade was the future.
Yeah, Korlash was Future Sight. Excuse me.
There we go. Whenever they make a move like this, it makes me happy because like it makes me. It points out that Wizards is aware of what a lot of its fans want, and even if like, and I think it's Wizards made the right choice when they changed borders and when they do all these things, and like, future Time Spiral block is. So go ahead.
Oros the Avenger was the Planar Chaos feature.
Right.
Yeah. The first cycle of legendary wedge creatures that they printed.
That's to call back the old OG
Not the Elder Dragons, the Onslaught Legion Scourge, like those dragons, like that when they hit a player, they have a trigger and they pay and get an effect.
But those dragons were harkening back to the Legends dragons, or whichever set those were from.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
But I was saying, like, this is such a good thing because Wizards goes, we know you're out there. We know you want this dumb, complicated thing, and we'll give it to you. But we aren't going to make it a standard set. So, like, Dominaria, I think, it's my... Dominaria is, like, my gold standard of, like, what good modern Magic design should aspire to be. It appreciates that nostalgia, but it improves upon and iterates it. So, like, there are, and like I can't even pull out these references, but like if you flip through the commons and uncommons in Time Spiral block, and if you know your old Magic cards, like I'm sure Lily could be like, "Oh, this is a reference to this card and this card from a million years ago." Give me a weird thing.
There was a cycle of Spell Shapers in Time Spiral block that were all like iconic old Magic, like spells. Like throughout the block there were two cycles. Like there was a green one, or I'm sorry, the plane shifted one had a cycle of like it was so there's the blue one, for example, did Harrow. Even though Harrow is a green card.
God.
Like so they did that. They did Spell Shapers in like all three of the ones. And in the third set, the Spell Shaper cycle that they did made creatures. So you had your Llanowar Mentor, who you'd pay 1 green and tap it and discard a card, and you'd make a token that was Llanowar Elves.
For people who don't know, a Spell Shaper is a card where it's a creature who has a tap ability to pay a certain amount of mana, discard a card, and get a effect, generally a previous spell. So, like the one that Lily gave an example of, it's a blue creature, but you discard a card, and then you pay 3 mana, I think it's 1 blue and 2, and you sack a land, and then go search out 2 lands and put them into play on tap. So that's a Spell Shaper. So like they did all these like deep, intricate references, and if you were super tuned into Magic, you'd be like, oh, that's this or that's this. But like if you're new like me, you're just like, why is this blue card getting tap lands? So I just really quick, Dominaria, they finally realized it's like, let's make sagas. Remember when Yawgmoth made Gerard cut off Urza's head? That was cool. Remember when Urza blew up the thing? That was cool. So they made references to things that people knew about.
You remember the mending? A lot of times.
The mending. And if you didn't know what it was, you could be like, oh, what is the mending of Dominaria? And if you Googled the sentence, what is the mending of Dominaria, you'd get an answer instead of, why is this blue wizard making me do this?
So
like, I love Time Spiral block, but it was a hot mess.
So here's the weird thing. I'd only been playing for so I started just before Kamigawa block, like right at the start of Kamigawa. And like I'd only been playing for a couple of years when Time Spiral came out. And by all accounts, this should not have been a set for me. But like I was voracious for every scrap of information about this game, and it hit in exactly the right spot and awoke an awful side of me.
It's like I like this set. I have nostalgia for it because I was in high school driving out to Lincoln, Nebraska to go to Hobbytown before pre-release. Back in the day.
No, it wasn't. Time Spiral pre-release wasn't at Hobbytown.
Yeah, it was.
Not the Time Spiral. Future Chaos and Future Sight were.
Future Sight. I remember Future Sight specifically. I don't think I did Time Spiral. I did Future Sight and Planar Chaos.
I did all three.
Getting a ride from our friend's older brother to Lincoln, Nebraska, and then like sleeping on the way back home, back before Omaha had pre-releases, which just boggles my mind. Like, believe me, I am at the age now where the nostalgia has hit, and the nostalgia is hitting. But I'm glad that Wizards has the sense to know. Like, I hope they do more remasters. I hope we get an Innistrad block remaster. Like, I would rather remaster sets than master sets. Like. Yeah. I don't need iconic masters or whatever. Like, go back to a block we all like. And they basically straight up said, we're going to keep doing this. So, like, we're going to get OG Ravnica remaster. We're going to get an Innistrad remaster. We'll probably get an OG Zendikar remaster.
Yeah, Zendikar World Bank remastered would be really good. Because I think, okay, so, little sidebar real quick. I think Mind Sculptor and Standard kind of, like, tainted everyone's, like, memories of that block, and I think having Rise of the Eldrazi as like a weird third set / separate block kind of fucked up how everyone like remembered. The Zendikar World Bank was a good format.
Oh, that's when I started. Zendikar Scars Standard was like when I actually started playing like F&M, and like I have a lot of feelings for that. And like in my head, that doesn't seem so long ago, but that would have been 2010. So that was a decade ago.
Like Scars, Mirrored and Besieged, New Phyrexia was a good draft format too.
Yeah, no, that was. I mean, I literally drafted Scars and Mirrored every week for like months and months. Okay, we're getting off track, but that's Time Spiral remastered. Weird touch and nostalgia. Weird messing with old borders. I'm pretty excited. Does anyone have any thoughts or final feelings on it?
Just one thought I had, and I couldn't help but get away from. We talked about how some of the mechanics are complicated and some of the cards in the original Time Spiral were complicated. I think it's a funny set to remaster because something I hear about this current state of Standard, at least to some degree, is that we have a lot of cards that have a lot of text on them and that are pretty complicated. So it's interesting that like they call back to a complicated set in a current state of having somewhat complicated play.
Oh, you think that's complicated play? Time Spiral remaster.
It's interesting.
It's a clusterfuck. The complication is not a good thing. The complication spawned an entire tentative game design.
Yeah, and like it's an interesting thing. Just a side note. So like, I would say that I like more complicated stuff in Standard. Like I really like Mutate as a mechanic. I wish only having in one set's a little tricky, but. I like complicated, but they're so much better at complicated nowadays. One of the things they learned immediately after Time Spiral was Time Spiral is loaded with onboard tricks, and like flanking immediately comes to mind. It is so easy to misplay into flanking. Flanking, for people who don't know, is if a creature is it blocks or is blocked by, Lily? Is it both?
Yeah.
So if a creature is blocked or blocks or blocked by, does the blocking or is blocked by a creature with flanking, they get -1/-1.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
if a creature without flanking.
Oh, that's right. If a creature without flanking is blocked by a creature with flanking, the creature
throughout Magic's history, they have tried a few different ways to demonstrate they ride horse.
The best example of they ride horse being horsemanship, which was reskinned flying in a non-official set that became official later. Jeez, this is what happens when you talk about Time Spiral. You have to go on 30 different tangents to explain 40 different things.
I was watching the Avengers movies just in the last 24 hours, and one of the things they say in it is well, they're going around the shield. What happens if they go around the shield and come from the back? Well, I guess you get -1/-1.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we've had horsemanship, we've had flanking. Whatever have we had for they ride horse?
So first strike / vigilance is their go-to nowadays for when you have a knight. The knight either has first strike or it has vigilance generally, which is interesting because in my set, I was like, all right, well, gunslingers. There aren't any knights in the set. They're gunslingers, and I'm like, how do I demonstrate that? How I did, and rather than like making a mechanic, I narrowed it down to 3 abilities, and 2 of those are the same. First strike and vigilance both communicate a similar thing, but the difference is like death touch is also a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
But that's a good example of nowadays they use much simpler mechanics to get it, where they're like, what if we made something where the creature gets it's so easy to fuck up into flanking. So I'm excited. I'm gonna do what I can to get a box of this, and then I'm gonna sit on said box until we get 6 to 8 people to play it. I have so much sealed product sitting.
My heart.
I have so much sealed product. It's gonna be a good time when we can all be in the same room. But okay, Lily, any final thoughts on Time Spiral Remastered before we move on?
Give me a modern border ice cauldron, you cowards.
You're a monster. You are history's greatest monster. We're going to take a quick break to recover from the abomination of a sentence Lily just said, and then we're going to talk about the end times of Magic for sure. Definitely Magic's ruined forever, I promise.
The complete inverse of what we just talked about.
Yeah, so stick around.
Hi, and welcome to the ads. This week we are brought to you by Cards Custom Builds. Are you into cosplay? Are you looking to get into cosplay? In the future, do you want to show up at your favorite event dressed up as your favorite character? Well, then Card Custom Builds is here to help. Cards Custom Builds creates everything from props and trinkets and weaponries all the way up to full costumes. I've seen some of the costumes that they made. They are all fantastic. They're really good stuff. If you would like to get some awesome things for your cosplay or just cool stuff to have around, if you want to throw a Halloween party at the end of the year and be like the talk of your Halloween party, please go check out Cards Custom Builds over at Facebook and tell them about TCG University. Say that we sent you and you'll get 5% off your entire order. Please do this. They do a bunch of things over there. Clay is making a lot of really cool stuff. He makes coasters too. If you want to go get coasters, I think he's selling them on Etsy and on Facebook. So please, if you want to get some cool stuff for your cosplay or for anything, go check out Cards Custom Builds and tell them that we sent you. This week, we are also brought to you by Dex Protections. Dex Protections is in a never-ending pursuit to create the highest quality storage and protection accessories. Their designs and innovation come from die-hard gamers and collectors just like you, so you know that what they make is stuff that you will want to buy, because they are also making stuff that they would want to buy. They are on a never-ending pursuit to create the best product, and that is why they are the leader in the industry in creating accessories for your deck products. Please, if you would like to go get some new stuff for when we're finally able to go out into public and go to tournaments and stuff, go to Dex Protections, and there'll be a link down in the description down below for that. Please go check them out. We are also brought to you this week by Red Ride Games. They are a Canada-based online seller of things like Universes, MTG, and Pokemon. They're friends of the show. We like them a whole lot. Please, 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 please go to redridegames.ca and check out all their singles there. And when you check out, use creator code TCGU to help support the show and help support them. It would be greatly appreciated. We like them a whole lot, and we would love it if you would use them to buy some singles for any upcoming tournaments that you might have towards the end of the year. Lastly, we are brought to you by Nuclear Ink Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop. At Nuclear Ink, you will find a very inclusive environment with artists that share interest in nerd culture and fandoms alike. Nuclear Ink prides themselves on Omaha's premier all-custom tattoo shop. If you are in the area and looking to get a custom tattoo, please check out Nuclear Ink here in Omaha. Link in the description down below. They're cool guys. We like them a whole lot. Yeah, they're really awesome. Please, if you're in the Omaha area and you want to get a tattoo, please go check them out. Thank you. And we'll get back to the show.
Hello, everybody. We are back. So, if you live in a hole or are watching this in the distant future, we had a big thing happen about a week ago. I think it was last Thursday. So, very recently, Wizards announced a new initiative called Universes Beyond. So, what this means is that what was started in the Walking Dead secret lair, which, oh boy, did we have, at the very least, that I had opinions on this show.
I got to get like a list of like our show titles so I can go back and watch. Anyway.
Yeah. So what they are doing is they are going to be making Magic cards with different IPs. So the two announcements are there is going to be a full set based on Lord of the Rings, and there are going to be multiple commander decks based on Warhammer 40k. So those are the upcoming ones. Basically, they said we're going to start doing this. They believe in the strength of the Magic game system, and their idea is they want to try to expand that out. This has been, we'll say, contentious. And I just want to throw some stuff out here. So if you watch the show regularly and remember the Walking Dead Secret Lair, I was riled and not happy about it for several reasons. The main two of those reasons being mechanically unique cards that were only on sale for a week's time without guarantee of reprint, and two, particularly one of the characters being what I felt was not necessarily in line with Magic's normal level of villainy, specifically Negan, the character from The Walking Dead, doing shitty, awful things in the show and feeling a bit of a disconnect with Magic. So, I wanted to throw that in there because I got quite riled about that. And one of the reasons I've been playing a little less Magic is I was pretty pissed off about that, and I needed some time to disconnect and cool down. So, this has been big, and my general Magic social media is Reddit, and the Magic subreddit is generally, now there's certainly dissenting opinions, but the general stance seems to be people are pissed off and they do not like this. There's been, this happened a week ago, and so since we're every other Thursday, part of me was like, I feel like we should talk about this, but I'm glad we've had some time so that takes could be token, and we could, like, take some time and kind of reflect on this. The weird thing is, like, none of this is soon. It's like, this is all in development steps. So, like, they were like, and here's a Space Marine on a Magic card. Just at some point, we're getting 40k commander decks. And something Wizards stressed is this is not replacing any products. This will be in addition to other products. They, in their release, I just want to make sure I'm hitting the bullet points here. Let me know if I'm forgetting anything. They said there may be other releases like the Walking Dead Secret Lair where they print mechanically unique cards in secret lairs. But their main goal in this is to make them as available as other Magic cards via normal release schedules. They also said that sometimes they will do the Godzilla treatment where we have other we have main brand Magic cards reskinned into other properties, but they said the main way that they will be doing this is making new mechanically unique cards that are other IPs. So, that's a lot.
Yeah.
JC, when you heard this, what were your thoughts? What are your feelings on Universes Beyond in this big shift in Magic?
So I couldn't help my prevailing overwhelming thought being, but My Little Pony was bad. Like, and like we talked about The Walking Dead and how contentious that was, and I feel like this has maybe been not handled the best in the past. So, like, I'm cautiously optimistic because, like, part of me wants to see, like, Gandalf as, like, a card. But, like, part of me is, like, really scared about, like, the current power level, the ideas of Magic, and, you know, their ideas about what they can make mechanically unique and do with it, and what that might look like.
So, I would posit that our previous forays into this outside of The Walking Dead didn't work because the cards didn't work. Like, the My Little Pony ones especially just did not function.
So people know, so there was a limited edition silver bordered My Little Pony set where I think we got 3 special edition pony cards, and like Lily said, they were they're silver border, so they don't have to follow the rules of Magic. One of them literally has the text: if X, Y, or Z is accomplished, every pony wins the game. So
yeah,
like,
but also like
tournament setting.
the condition it's referencing is inachievable in the game.
Actually, I think it is with that equipment from the most recent unset that gives
good lord. Okay.
ruled it
Yes.
is, but yes. It kind of joke cards that so the card that does this is if you control like 5 of the characters from My Little Pony, everyone wins the game. But those other 5 cards don't exist. So that was like a joke charity. I don't know if it was charity. It was like an unproduct. It was silver bordered and something.
But
that,
these are not going to be standard legal.
So they are not going to be standard legal, but they will be black bordered Magic cards.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that they will be legal in Eternal formats, Commander, Legacy, Vintage, and someone asked if they would be Modern legal. Initially, they said no, and then they walked that back. So it is possible.
Have they walked that back?
Well, so I think they walked back that said I think they just basically they didn't want to be definite on that. So my assumption is early on it will be like a Commander a good example. So Warhammer 40k Commander decks will be just like the normal Commander deck release. They will be black bordered. They will be tournament legal in anything that Commander deck cards are legal in, be Commander, Vintage, Legacy, and Pauper. So one of the reasons they did that is people were saying, we also had a show where we pitched ways they could do this, and one of the things that if I'm remembering correctly, we talked about was, what if they made like a blue border where it worked, so it'd be a Star Trek set or a Lord of the Rings set in a blue border, but that way it wouldn't be tournament legal. So the response to people saying, why didn't you do that, is Morrow and other Wizards employees have said, silver bordered has shown that people don't treat silver border like, quote, real Magic cards. And that they want so, and this makes, I get this both as a player and as someone who has to like acknowledge that the company needs to make money. You don't want to say, hey, 40k players, hey, Lord of the Rings fans, you've heard about Magic, get into it, buy these cards. And then people go, well, those aren't real Magic cards. You can't use them. So they have said, we're not going to deal with that problem. They're real Magic cards. And that has caused a lot of people to be pretty upset. Lily, where do you come down on this?
I think it's great. So here, specifically the examples they gave, I think good. Like if the examples they gave were for a reason, like 40k and Lord of the Rings, like Lord of the Rings is solely within the scope of like the kind of stuff Magic does. 40k at the end of the day is still a fantasy setting.
Mm-hmm.
It is sci-fi trappings, but it is a fantasy setting. And like The Walking Dead is more of an outlier than 40k, and I think 40k is like violence and that sort of thing is all over the top in such a way that it doesn't have the same kind of like realism and sting that The Walking Dead does. But on the whole, on the level, I think this is good. I think it brings in people who, I think brings in fresh blood into the game in a way that that disrupts the hegemony of like Magic's very toxic and insular community.
No, and I generally I'm in agreement. I realize that it might seem a bit odd after my vehement opposition to The Walking Dead, and I will maintain my 2 points. I don't like mechanically unique secret lairs. If they continue to do that, I will continue to be frustrated by that. I hope that they make those Walking Dead cards available again to players. This is the world we're living in, so I'm fine walking back I still really don't like Negan. Negan doesn't feel appropriate Magic dark for me. So I'm looking forward to this. I think there's a lot of things I'd be happy to see. I share some of your trepidation, JC, with what happens if we get a full My Little Pony set and those Commander decks or those Commander cards are good for my Yawgmoth deck. Do I put the pony card in my Yawgmoth deck because I want that effect? So, like, there are things that make me a little like one of the ones that can't. Go ahead.
Like another concern too is like these will be legal for Commander, obviously, and we've talked several times about how Commander is very community run and very like whatever player group you play with like sets its own rules and stuff like that. But obviously, a Commander has its own ban list and everything like that.
Yeah.
So like I kind of like low-key worry that they're just gonna immediately ban things, but like
okay, if they do, like that's about the only thing I can think of that would lower my opinion of the rules committee.
So
hang on. And
Okay.
if you rule 0 these, you're an asshole.
So, I mean, as someone who said the Commander's Rule Committee should have banned the Walking Dead cards, and someone who said I won't play with someone who plays these cards, like, this Universes Beyond thing has made me think about my stance. I don't think it's going to happen. The Rules Committee didn't ban the Walking Dead cards, which I will always go back to. Mechanically unique secret lairs are shitty. And so the fact that they're saying there are 2 upcoming things that will be as available as other Magic cards get rid of a lot of my complaints.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one of tone, I can maybe adjust on. I'm still not super down with, like, sexual assault being a thing that villains in my Magic do. It's not really something I want to bring into this storytelling system.
I mean, but, like, what if Frodo Baggins is really good, and you need him in your historic deck that is otherwise full of things that are discongruent to that?
That's just like anything else. Like, you put.
I mean, true.
Okay, so just for full disclaimer here, like, there's a Twitter a person on Twitter that I follow at SheepyCutie is making some of these points that I'm reiterating here because I think they're good points. Like, anyone who has ever put fucking lightning greaves on a worm or given, like, a sword to, like, a little birds of paradise has no right to complain about like flavor
Carrying a
conversion.
sword in its mouth. It's fine.
That's kind of where I come up. I'm one of the people clamoring for squirrels and talking about how I like more lighthearted Magic cards. So, like, I'll admit, the idea of Frodo Baggins being good and needed for Legacy doesn't really bother me. The idea that SpongeBob might be required for Legacy is... I'm processing those feelings right now. So part of this is it's easy to go, they're going to make SpongeBob and they're going to make a My Little Pony set, and the only way to play Commander will be with Fluttershy, with Crewed by Plankton, and so, like, it's easy to be like, this and that. The ones they've showed us are 40k and Lord of the Rings, which have
And
a
The Walking
huge...
Dead, I think, counts here.
And The Walking Dead, and like you said, like, I'm curious, and if they lean towards more Walking Dead... at the very least, I'm not really interested in buying Walking Dead cards. I don't really like the show. I used to watch it. It's fine. I don't need it in Magic. The sentence, Warhammer 40k Commander decks, is the best combination of words I've ever heard. And, like, I realize that there might be a little bit of, I realize I'm excited for the things I like. So, like, Walking Dead... I think I had legitimate issues that I would maintain across other IPs bringing in, but I like Lord of the Rings. I'm excited for that. I am beyond excited for Warhammer 40k Magic the Gathering. And, like, the thing is, like, I would never play I love Warhammer 40k. I play the miniatures game. I've read some of the books. I try to keep vaguely up with the lore. I like that IP. I would never play a 40k card game. I play a card game. So the fact that the card game I play is going to be 40k is great. And, like, I want Star Trek. Star Trek feels appropriate to me. Like, it's not fantasy. I want Star Trek cards. I don't necessarily want The Wire or, like Walking Dead. I realize, yes, they're zombies, and it's not just, like, Law and Order, but, like, I don't need...
Brett, they're walkers.
But, like, that's the thing. Like, I still feel like Walking Dead is the odd one out here, and I'm curious to see what kind of IP crossovers they're going to do. And, like, maybe if it's a secret lair here or there, okay, or a smaller available... Again, I still don't like the availability problems, but, like, if there's 3 or 4 of this kind of more different genre, okay, I do not...
Sorry, you mentioned Law and Order, and I just keep thinking about a card that the flavor text is executive producer Dick Wolf.
I'm excited for this, but I don't think we need a Law and Order Special Victim Unit set. That's not what I'm looking for. Like,
hey, what about Phoenix Wright, though?
See, that's what...
What about, like, that gets into anime, though, too?
And, like, there's also... I want to be clear here, like, because I've had different stances on similar topics here. There's still things I'm trying to, like, work out. So, like, Game of Thrones sort of feels like, yeah, Game of Thrones would work. But then I have to get into that, like, I like villain, like Tywin Lannister is an interesting villain, but then you get into, like, Ramsay Bolton. Ramsay Bolton starts feeling like Negan, and then I have to start thinking about like what exactly are we doing here? So like there are still some like I like the books. I like the movies. Adult themes are appropriate in certain places. Like it's not saying never bring this up, but I'm still kind of processing like what does magic look like? Like Darth Vader. That seems like Darth Vader. Yeah, he did massacre a lot of children.
Yeah.
Like,
and a planet on screen.
Yeah, but that feels less like. But that we get back into that last problem of like the character of Negan in The Walking Dead feels much grosser than like blowing up Alderaan with the Death Star, even though Alderaan literally killed everyone on the planet. It's so like. I hope that my hope is that The Walking Dead and particularly the drama around Negan is something they think about when they do this.
Well, like 40K like has like fascism is bad as like one of its themes though.
Yeah.
Like it's a core theme is like this is over the top and awful and you shouldn't like it.
Yeah, like I mean that's one of those weird things where it's like I kind of want a card where like a commissar like I want a card that there's a mechanic very briefly Imperial Guard. It's like Starship Troopers. It's a bunch of little guys fighting big horrifying aliens and superhumans. One of the rules is commissars can have a rule where if they try to flee, you execute a soldier so the rest of your soldiers don't free.
I have that as a card in my set because we have some 40K adjacent stuff in our like shared roleplay universe.
And so it's like I'm expecting and kind of want a set that does that, a card that does that in these decks, but also that's bleak. So like, and to be fair, Yawgmoth went around and conducted a bunch of like horrifying science experiments on people. Like, Magic has real bad dudes too, so it's going to be interesting, kind of dissecting what's fantasy violence and what's violence and what does feel like Magic, because I'll say Song of Ice and Fire seems kind of like it would fit in. It's darker, but you could do it. But then it's like, but are we just doing whatever? Because The Wire or The Sopranos feels weird. So
like, okay, so worth mentioning here, Scheherazade. This first Magic expansion ever was bringing in an external IP. Portal 3 Kingdoms is the Romance of the Three Kingdoms is like an external like thing that was brought in and was not initially like legal and then later made to be legal.
And I also want to throw this in there. It's like when we do the North set, we just did the North set. Yeah, we have Thor and Thor's hammer. And yeah, his name isn't Thor, but like I want to address the group. It's like, but if I saw Thor on my Magic card, it would take me out of the thing. Like, I see this argument a lot, and here's the deal. If Magic is all about the theme and the story, like, and if you hate this, that's okay. If you say, this isn't the game I want to play, I'm not going to say you're a bad, dumb person. Like, that's okay. I was really riled over The Walking Dead. I played less Magic after that happened because I was upset. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time being upset about a card game, so I eased back. That's fine. And I think there might truly be some people who say, yeah, if I saw the Emperor of Mankind, if I saw Gandalf, it would make me feel like I'm not a planeswalker on Dominaria. It would make this feel bad. Okay, that's that's okay. And if you don't want to play the game anymore, or if this bothers you and you don't want to spend your money on it, I respect that. But I think a lot of people are like, it would take me out of the game. It's like, you know how many games where I've got squirrels holding swords, getting in a car to get in another car? Like, yeah, there's enough absurdity here that like. And like,
and also,
go ahead.
So like, for me, seeing and not Thor, like this is not Thor, but it's Thor. You know, that's not Zeus, but that's Zeus. Like makes me realize I'm playing Magic more than if it were Zeus.
I mean, yeah, like I don't think that it's like this is clear, like Innistrad, one of the most popular sets. It's like, here's Dracula, here's Frankenstein, here's Wolfman. It's just that is what Magic, particularly nowadays, does. And like, that's the other thing. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't like current Magic storytelling. They liked it when it was on Dominaria and there were not planeswalkers. and that's fair. If you liked that crazy nonsense, personally, I can't follow it. It's hard for me to go back and try to piece together who was whose brother and who turned into what druid, but that's fine. If you like old school magic, you're not wrong. It's just you like a different thing. I like an edition. I like, hey, what if we went to Egypt, but it's like Nicol Bolas Egypt? Or what if we went to the Old West, but wizards? Like, I'm all about that. So, like, what if we went to 40k, but it's just 40k? I can work with that. And it's helpful that the two things they pitched are things that I like. I mean, I literally have a Space Marine on my thing next to my Magic figurines, but also, like you said, Lily, they feel appropriate.
Right.
And, like, if they do a My Little Pony set, that's gonna be an interesting thing. And I'm gonna have to work on that, but I don't think we need to immediately assume the world is ending.
Yeah. Like, I think they're gonna, like, I feel like with these two being the two that they announced, like, I feel like they're going to try to stay within a degree of separation of, like, of theme of their game. Like, if they did a Game of Thrones thing, I don't think that would be, like, an issue. Because, like, I would consider Game of Thrones closer to Magic the Gathering's core, like, aesthetic than the Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I mean, and I think that's a good point. So, like, I don't think The Wire or The Sopranos have that much in common with Magic. I also don't even think The Walking Dead has that much in common. But 40k has that. Yes, it's techie, but it has that fantasy, that empire, that sort of there's void dragons and there's this and there's orcs and the orcs have guns, but they're still orky. And, like, even the Godzilla cards. Yeah, it was a little weird to see, like, cars and buildings, but, like, big fuck all monsters feels very Magic. So it didn't feel that weird when it was Mothra or a big old moth. Like, I liked the Godzilla card. So
I'm just sad the Mothra one was legendary.
I know it.
So mad. Nor Batra.
I guess my question is, with the current design track of Magic and its kind of power level and whatever we may think about, what's going on the current design meta, with the examples that we have of The Walking Dead and the examples that they've put out with this, do you get the indication and the signaling that they will make good choices? Do you feel like this will be okay? And I'm asking, like, legitimately. I think I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it will probably be okay.
I think The Walking Dead showed them what is too far.
I mean, yeah, and it was the best-selling Secret Lair, and hopefully they say, oh, this will be a good way to get new people, not, oh, we can do whatever we want. And JC, to answer your question, they are going to fuck this up. They are going to make mistakes. There's going to be cards in those 40k and those Lord of the Rings that are going to be way strong and are going to warp formats and might need to get banned. Like, they are going to fuck this up, but Wizards always fucks it up. That's kind of part of Magic. So while they are going to make fuck-ups and they are going to make mistakes, it is going to be okay. And I think this is there are things that Wizards could do that would make me think the game is going downhill. One of those things, it's not the action of doing it, but what would be represented would be eliminating the reserve list. If that ever happens, WotC's in trouble. This is not the action of a company that's in trouble. This is the action of a company that's trying something new. So I think to a degree, and some of the people's hearts are in the right place, and they do want to bring new people into the game and bring things that they love into Magic. And there's a reason I play Magic and I don't play other games. It's because the game is good and the game has history. I'm not going to play a 40k card game. I'm not going to play a whatever card game. I played the Star Trek card game. I'm not picking that back up. I will play those in Magic. So I would say it's going to be okay. It is and even if it seems like the world is ending, people who hate this, it is going to be okay. Wizards will fuck this up, but they always do. And it wouldn't be Magic if they didn't fuck it up every now and then.
One final note, too. I just wanted to bring this up because this was newsworthy over the last 2 weeks. Did we hear that Wizards of the Coast was moving to its own separate division within Hasbro?
Yes.
Like, operationally?
I want to talk about that. Do we want to bring that up on the post show?
Let's make it a post-show thing.
Okay. Final
That's
thoughts.
real inside baseball.
Inside baseball. Any final thoughts on Universes Beyond before we officially end the show and move to the post show?
I want 2 Saruman cards. I want one where he's a white card and one where he's a multicolor card.
Oh my god.
I want bolt guns. I want to give Kelsine a bolt gun because that would be fucking sweet.
Tyranid slivers.
There we go. Okay, so everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. It's been a big week. We will be back in 2 more weeks, and pretty soon we got to start talking about Strixhaven. So, a lot coming up. Please tune back in. We appreciate you watching. Give us a like on the social media things. Tell someone about us. We do appreciate that. That helps us out a lot. Or if you want to catch the pre and post show, just $1 a month on Patreon. You will be in the Discord then. We'll give you the Discord link, and we post the live shows there so you can comment along and harass us while we do the show, and make sure you catch all of the content we do. We're going to move on to the post show. Thank you all so much for tuning in, everybody. Stay sane out there. We're maybe done with this thing soon. Be reasonable, and make sure to remember who you are.